Welcome to a very special edition of the Spilled Milk Podcast. Been a little while since we've done this, but we got a great guest. We got Gurratan Singh. Thank you for being here. And, how would I introduce you? Political leader.
Past
political leader.
My past career.
Spiritual teacher. spiritual student.
Yeah.
Student.
I'll take student.
Everlasting student. And I just want to thank you for joining us and tell us a little bit about yourself.
I always start with this disclaimer. So you've shared a little bit about my background.
Yeah.
I was previously an elected official.
Yeah.
I'm a lawyer by background.
Mm-hmm.
But the part of me that people don't know is that I actually studied religion in my undergraduate. So I have an honors degree in religion. I've always been really interested in religion. Okay. So right now I'm in this role. I'm a vice president at Canada's largest public affairs firm. Mm-hmm. But on my social media, what I'm really interested about is talking about spirituality.
Gotcha.
And I always give this disclaimer. I'm not a Sikh theologian. I'm not a Sikh academic.
Yeah.
Honestly, sometimes I'm not even that good of a Sikh.
Ugh.
What I am is I'm a person who has some skill in communication, and I have a community of people around me who help teach me about Sikhi. So when you said spiritual student, I'll take that all day long. So in this conversation, which is a lot about spiritual discourse, which is something I find very motivating. Yeah. If there's anything that is profound or positive, it's not because of me. It's because I've been able
stuff that you learned. Yeah.
Because I've been able to properly communicate that knowledge that's been shared with me.
Absolutely.
And if there's anything that's been offensive or wrong, that's my own ego. And for that, this is my disclaimer. No. I apologize. That's just me trying to learn on the
little bit of the media training coming out.
Yeah. Gotta put that disclaimer, you know?
And you know what? Actually, it's good that you did add that disclaimer. This one's not going to be about the type of raunchy jokes that I make. This is going to be a positive conversation. I'm actually trying to learn a lot about Sikhi myself. I'm going to use this as slightly a bit of a therapy session.
You're mentioning that.
Yeah. Learn a little bit about and how I can kind of become, you mentioned that you weren't a perfect Sikh. I mean, I basically am perfect Sikh. Okay, let's start off with this. You mentioned that you went to school and got your honors in religion. Was that in your college days or did you go back to school after?
No, so my brother's Gurratan Singh, for those who probably know or suspected.
Never heard of him.
Who's that guy? And so my brother gave me this advice when I was studying, when I was going to go to university. He said, just study what you love. Yeah. And so I just started to study at school, first year university at McMaster University. Shout out to McMaster. I took a first year course in religion. Yeah. I found it really profound and I loved it. So I just continued to study it. So my undergraduate was a 4-year honors degree in religion. And then from there, I then applied to law school. I took a gap year in between and then I became a lawyer. And I don't practice law at all. And I'm totally in a different sphere of public affairs.
Gotcha. Okay, so in these religious type of classes, I'm actually curious about this. Are there people who are very open to other people's religions, or is it did you find people who wanted to hammer their own viewpoint at one another and try to maybe say how their viewpoint was the best?
Yeah, so
because it is college, and college people are generally a little bit more open-minded, but you can also be a little pretentious at that time too.
100%. But also, I'm older than you, right? So I'm born in 84. And so I remember the advent of Facebook. I remember my friends being like, hey, we joined Facebook and all these things. So I feel like the world was less polarized. I think social media has polarized a lot of things. And so it was just for me, I would rush to class because I actually found the conversation profoundly spiritual. I studied Eastern religions. So it helped me better understand Sikhi in many ways because Sikhi makes a lot of references to other spiritual paths, particularly the religions within the South Asian sphere, Dharmic religions. And so for the people I studied with and the people I was in school with, it was really actually profound and cool. And every day was this really beautiful spiritual discussion. I don't want to sound corny or anything, but I genuinely...
It's not coming off.
Yeah. No, I'll say this. This is the corny part. Yeah. The corny part, I would be in class and my professor would be talking about different just spiritual discourses and ideas. Yeah. And it would honestly, I'd be like, I'm going to cry right now. I found it really, that's the corny part, right? And so I found it really profound, right? I was a nerd. I loved religion. I loved just studying and learning about these spiritual discussions.
Yeah. So that obviously shaped, who you became today. Now, what is kind of the origin story? Were you guys always religious growing up, or how'd that kind of come to fruition?
This is a good question to ask.
Yeah.
I'm not religious now. Okay. I don't think Sikhi is a religious, it's not a religion. Sikhs don't refer to Sikhi as Sikhism. a religion. Sikhi is a way of life.
Where did Sikhism come from then?
Sikhism.
Because like I've heard that since, I went to Khalsa school, from elementary to grade 7. And like even that term was being used. It was Sikhism. You know what I mean? So where did that come from if you say that Sikhi is not, a religion or an ism?
Yeah. I think a lot of the issues, so I'm going to answer this and I'm going to actually expand a little bit.
Gotcha.
A lot of the issues we're having as Sikhs right now is that we are not using our worldview to explain who we are.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, we're saying, what is the Western predetermined language around us?
Gotcha.
And we're going to adopt that.
Okay.
So I'll give an example. Sikhism being one. We're the 5th largest religion. We're Sikhism. The term Sikhism never appears anywhere in the Gurratan Singh. In any Sikh historical context, Sikhism never existed.
Gotcha.
Sikhi existed. But when the Western, due to colonization and when Western thinkers started to interact with our spiritual way, they called it Sikhism. I'll give you another example. We say we're the 5th largest religion and we're monotheistic. Okay.
One God,
We're not monotheistic. Okay. So what does monotheism mean?
One God.
Monotheism means you got Zeus, you have Apollo, you have Thor, you have Odin.
Well, but mono means one though, right?
One. So this example is if I choose 5 gods, right? Zeus, Apollo, Odin, Thor, and Jupiter. Okay. 5 gods. You're saying, all 4 are fake. One is true. Thor is the only God.
Okay, gotcha.
One God. Okay. In Sikhi, we're not saying that there's one God. We're saying there's only oneness. Which is profoundly different. And this is what I mean to say when we have this different perspective of the world. To believe in one God is to generally believe there's like one guy in the sky with a long white flowing beard. And that's the person you have to be afraid of, who's passing judgment upon you, who you have to keep happy. In Sikhi, we're saying that even right now, as I sit across from you and I see you as someone distinct from me, different from me, someone who we only physically just met weeks ago. That we are one. I'm one with this earth. I'm one with this universe. I'm one with the multiple infinite earths that exist in universes and galaxies. I'm one with all reality. We are a spirituality that believes in this profound sense of oneness. And because of this oneness, that's why we believe in social justice. We believe that the pain that others feel is pain that we are experiencing because we're all one and we're compelled to then fight against injustice. That is, I think, profoundly different than saying I believe in one God.
Okay, so what you just described there where, we have empathy and we believe in social justice and things like that, that is kind of like what it's supposed to be. That's like in the ideal sense. Now, our community, let's say in the West, has become, very capitalist in a sense, right? But our religion teaches us to be almost, more community where everyone can kind of come and, eat at the Gurdwara and we're supposed to help one another. What happened? Where was that cultural shift, you think, where we just became like extremely successful in capitalism? We were able to learn the West system, adopt it, and we've excelled to basically the highest points. How did that happen? If at our root, we are more about community and bringing everyone together and supposed to be, we're supposed to be just helping one another all the time. We're very splintered now.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I have a bit of an idealistic perspective on our community. I think online, we're super splintered. I think if you go on social media, you see like a lot of trolls and people fighting, etc. When I meet Sikhs day to day, like IRL in real life, right? Like I actually see a very profound sense of just connection, right? Like I always joke, I don't know if you're, I'm dating myself. So Fight Club is like a movie I used to like a lot.
Of course, great movie.
And so like I sometimes like when I walk around as a Sikh and like, if people have some awareness of who I am, I feel like legit sometimes like, am I in Fight Club? Like every time you jump in, you need to get someplace, often Sikhs are very active in transport and taxis and otherwise. And you get this love, you get this connection. If like sometimes I've been like I was in a situation once where someone was like getting accosted at a station, at a train station. And like, I just like intervened to be like, hey, what's going on? And then just randomly like 2 Sikhs just came up to back me up. It's like this young woman who's getting accosted and just like, you feel this like, it's like, oh wow, like there's like a lot of like, there's a lot of community. That is actually,
it's funny that you mentioned that. Like we do stand together when we see that injustice in real life. How you say like, when the chips are down, like we will kind of come together. But I find 100%. That when there's no fight to go against, then we start bickering amongst ourselves. You know what I mean? And that's why, like, Sikhi is supposed to be objective truths, right? Would you agree or disagree to that? To a degree.
It's interesting because, it's objective truths, But we also, this is the really profound thing.
Mm-hmm.
In the Sikh spirituality, we revere the unknown.
Yeah.
We revere uncertainty.
Mm-hmm.
So generally you're meant to, you're talking about objective truth, right? So generally you want to attach yourself to these things that are objectively, this is true and that is true.
Yeah.
And there's many objective truths in Sikhi, right? But we also recognize that there's an aspect of this divinity that we're trying to connect with, which is unspeakable, which is indescribable. We actually say that the term is akat, which is that which cannot be spoken.
Yeah.
And generally things that cannot be spoken are unknown or uncertain, and that creates fear. It's why we fear deep water. It's why we fear the dark, because we don't know what lays hidden.
Yeah.
But in the Sikh way, we use that as a term of reverence for the divine.
Okay.
So in the Sikh way, as much as we do have objective truths that we want to attach ourselves to, like equality and social justice and compassion and love, there's also this really profound sense in our spirituality where we recognize that an aspect, a huge aspect of this divine we're trying to connect with is indescribable. And for us, if we apply that to our lives, if we start to look at uncertain moments or unknowable moments as profound, as something to revere, how much would that change our perspective in life? Like generally, if you feel something uncertain, you get scared. You get uncertain, you get insecure. But in the Sikh way, we're saying, find that as a profound moment to learn.
To level up. And absolutely.
But that's a total aside from that, like so, the truths are like, we're all one, we're all equal. That's why we believe in social justice. It's why we believe in the equality of women. We're against the caste system. All these factors are derived from this, we would say, is the truth of our oneness.
So, and right before I got here, I was actually on my Instagram and, looking at a few things where, you're mentioning that we're all one and, things like that. There's groups that are in like the UK and, in various parts, I think even in Canada, where they're going to go down and stopping marriages from happening between interfaith people. Like maybe it's an Aparna with a Gori, maybe, a Muslim with a Sikh or, a Hindu with a Sikh, whatever that kind of situation might arise. If we're supposed to abide by the rules of we're all one, everyone's equal, like we can do that, how does that play into the Anandakaraj aspect of it? Because I've read into that as well. It's supposed to be Sikh with Sikh. Where's that line kind of divided to?
This is a really important conversation. And it's something I think about a lot. Because how can we as Sikhs, how are we going to live in diaspora? So just a bit of a background. This is the first time in history en masse where Sikhs are living outside of an area that either knows about us or there's a large population of us, right? So prior to like the 80s and 70s, the vast majority of Sikhs were in Punjab or in South Asia, okay? So Punjab and large urban centers. This is the first time we have Sikhs en masse outside of Punjab or outside of South Asia. And we are learning how to exist and live. And how do we work in a way where, how do we exist in a manner in which it's not just we who are attached to Sikhi, but our children and our great-grandchildren, so for generations. I think the problem with the issue of how do we engage with Anandakaraj and how do we engage with in front of our guru, it fundamentally comes down to what I believe is that there's just a fundamental lack of understanding of how profound the Anandakaraj is, how profound it is to come before our guru and ask for this blessing to then be put on this spiritual path of marriage. What does marriage mean in a Sikh context? How many people...
A combination of two souls, I guess, and become...
Combination of two souls, but with the real sense of Anandakaraj is really discussing your spiritual path with the divine.
Okay.
Right? So we often use this line like it's one light and two lamps, right? Is the reference. But the real focus of Anandakaraj is actually describing the journey of an individual, understanding that they're one with all. That's the heart, and that's the heart of everything in Sikhi. So why we have these issues, I think, is that people are not recognizing that when you come before our guru, this is a guru, you must commit yourself to this guru. And a Sikh would be an individual who would commit themselves to this guru. But how do we then create education with love to educate people to say that, to engage in this spiritual process, this is not a ritual to just walk around the Gurratan Singh and that's it, we're getting married. It's meant to be a spiritual process. And that spiritual process has some requirements. But I just think that there's such a lack of emphasis on understanding this process. So the very fact that you even had some like feedback on the Anandakaraj is beautiful to me. The vast majority of people who get married, I would reckon don't know very much about the Anand Cottage at all.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's such a lack of information
For sure.
and education. So I think the root of that is it's people responding to the fact that people there's not enough systems in place educating people on how important our Anand Cottage is and what it should be required before coming before a guru.
You know, it's funny that you mentioned that on the education aspect. I do find that the resources to learn about our religion are kind of few and far between, where since like birth, it's kind of been a shut up and listen. You know, like, don't worry about what it is. Don't ask questions. If you sit there long enough, then you can understand it. But you never really had somebody teaching you what Gurbani meant, teaching you what Kirtan meant, like any of those shabds. Like, you know, now I guess they're starting to add some translations, but you know how much meaning gets lost when you're converting something from Punjabi, Gurmukhi to English, right?
Yeah.
Why do you think that the people kind of almost gatekeep the knowledge? You know what I mean? They don't make it more accessible. They don't kind of make it more, I don't want to say hip or anything, but like people who like really understand the scriptures, who can kind of teach the youth in like a way that you can understand it properly.
This is such an important conversation, and I'm really happy we're having it, because it's what I think about a lot. It's why I've actually, as someone who in my day-to-day, I'm not someone who in my professional terms, or I'm not, actively involved in Gurbani discussion. It's not like, for me, it's something that I'm passionate about. My job is completely separate than my social media, my job very rarely overlap. My vast majority of my social media is about this, because for this exact same reason. So I've thought about this a lot. And I think this is what's happened. And, I'll wait for the PhD papers to come out to describe it further.
And if I could add one more thing, like, I do find that a lot of people who do know about Sikhi, they almost kind of weaponize that knowledge to have the superiority over everyone. It's like, well, why should I teach you? You should go out and learn. And I've come across that myself when you're trying to ask questions. But oftentimes I do find that comes from a place of not being able to explain it enough. That same thing of like, well, who are you to question me? You should be able to figure it out.
Yeah.
So
I would say two things.
Yeah.
The first is this. When Sikhs, let's understand the migration pattern that brought Sikhs here to Canada or the diaspora. Yeah. So I would say, and the stats I've looked at loosely, but pre-1984, we had small pockets of Sikhs, UK, Vancouver specifically, or the lower mainland, or Baldi, I'd say BC, let's just say. So prior to 1984, you had some communities in BC, UK. There were some in like Singapore and East Asia and in Africa, right? But like en masse, the vast majority of Sikhs were in Punjab. You then have a period in which from 1947 to 1984, you have the partition of Punjab. You have the further split of Punjab into other states, as there's with regards to the split of Haryana from Punjab, etc. Then you have a period of Punjabis and Sikhs protesting the central government. You have emergency rule. You have a social movement in Punjab. You have 1984, where our central Sikh sphere was attacked by the Indian government. You then have a decade of Sikhs who are basically picked up and murdered in a secret genocide by the Indian government. And then you have, a period of there's been a reduction of direct violence, but this institutional violence is incredibly prevalent. Crackdown on freedom of speech and a consistent, silencing of different voices, and as recently as the farmers' protest and an economic attack against the Sikh community. In this context, you have Sikhs who are fleeing Punjab either as direct refugees from the violence of India or as economic refugees because of I would say, violent economic policies that had forced Sikhs to leave. They then come to Canada. We don't have the resources of an organized Sikh institution in Punjab that's able to act in autonomy to support or fund us. Literally, people are mortgaging their houses to build gurdwaras. Okay, and at the same time, and we're seeing this more and more, you have the Indian government that has been and is now evidence is showing is actively involved in infiltrating, intimidating, extorting, and attacking Sikhs. So you then all of a sudden you have this, like, when you start painting that picture, I'm like, part of me is like, it's an accomplishment. It's an accomplishment that we have as many gurdwaras that we have at all. Because you have to understand this historical context. And I don't think it was that people were trying to gatekeep as much as they were trying to survive. It was, I'll talk about
And yeah, that's, I guess that's only one generation ago. So
one generation ago,
carrying that. I don't want to, always elicit it to trauma per se, but there is some defensiveness about.
And beyond that, these are people who have for 40 years have been saying, watch out, Indian operatives are trying to infiltrate our gurdwaras.
Yeah.
And now we have evidence. Before, those people would be like criticized as
tin hats and stuff.
They're conspiracy theorists beforehand. Now those same people are saying, well, if there's evidence that Indian diplomats were expelled from Canada because they were found to have been using criminal organizations to target, threaten, and extort Canadians, including Sikh Canadians. Of course, they're probably, it's easy to say now that there's an evidentiary basis to say, yes, that they're also likely have been using those same tactics towards our gurdwaras and how that could have impacted who was involved in which gurdwara. So when you look at it from that context now, you realize that this is a generation of individuals who were trying to just protect the institution of our gurdwaras, I think, and the lack of our ability to communicate about who we are is, I think, about our faith is largely, I think, the result of it was people who were like mortgaging their homes. They were, and I'll give the Brampton context. A lot of them were like in transportation. They were truckers. They're like, so they didn't have the privilege of an easy job.
Of course.
And at the same time, they're trying to build these institutions.
Absolutely.
So I think now we're in a position where we're better established, and we now have the access to resources, I would say, that we're able to start investing in these, in starting to invest in institutions to start educating about Sikhi. And we're seeing that with Khalsa schools in BC, with Gurdwara programming in Ontario. There's a group called the Sikh Initiative that does an English Gurbani discussion every Friday in Brampton at Regan Road Gurdwara. So like we're seeing this now, but we're late, I think, because of that experience.
Absolutely. And like, we've become like fully westernized. Like I am a product of, Sikh westernization, right? Maybe you just saw the Jacob the Jeweler watch the other day.
I did not.
You didn't see it?
Oh.
Well, Jacob the Jeweler made a watch. It's got a khanda and ikonkar, and there's a line in it, and they call it the Shere Punjab Jacob the Jeweler. Wow. It looks like a bit of an afterthought, but it's cool to see that, I don't even want to say arrived, but we're on that stage now. Of course it's commercialization. Diljit's gonna buy one. Maybe your brother will buy one.
No, he won't. But
I mean, it's a cool piece, right? It's kind of like it's culturally significant. But I do recall as a kid, like when the Rashtriya Gurdwara splits happened, they had a Gurdwara in a makeshift warehouse. Like it was like a boiler room. It was just this big, vast warehouse. And that would be where everyone went. And now, things have obviously established themselves. But I feel like the community is, one person says that they got it figured out. Another person says that they got it figured out. We talked about this at the park that we were at together, that the whole concept of fundamentalists and moderates, that doesn't exist in Brampton, Toronto, where it's fairly prevalent over here because we got tables and chairs or tables and chairs and floor seats and all that. Does that happen over there in Brampton as well, or it's just kind of accepted as...
It's going to be hard for me to comment on this too much because it is very much a BC phenomenon. So in Ontario, like we don't have this delineation of someone, and I think it's connected to migration patterns because you have an older group of Sikhs who have been here, and then you had a newer influx of immigrants, and there was some tension there. I don't know exactly because I'm not from here, but I can comment on Ontario and say that in Ontario we don't have this delineation of you're an Orthodox Sikh, you're a fundamentalist Sikh, you're a moderate Sikh. We have people who have different levels of engagement to Sikhi, that's life, right? Like everywhere, you have different people. There are people who are far more advanced on the spiritual path than I am, and we have people who are just introducing this path compared to me. But we don't have this like almost like who's your clique? I guess is kind of the BC thing. Like who do you represent? Who do you go to? We don't have that in Ontario. I would say for the most part, in terms of like there's nuance with regards to like maybe their perspectives on different Sikh ideology or Sikh spiritual belief. But generally, I would say like from a Panthik perspective, especially in Brampton, the vast majority of Gurdwaras are on the same page. And I think that's a beautiful thing.
Good. Okay, fair enough. Now, someone like myself who I guess has strayed from the path a little bit. I try to keep a good relationship with God. I do a little bit of a prayer every single night, do a little bit of part. Someone like me who's trying to come, back onto the path, but I feel like I got a lot of work to do for myself. I'm sure some of the listeners would be interested in seeing this. What would be the first way to kind of start getting back on to the right path?
So I think, and like I said,
and like I'll straight up, admit it. Like, like I've talked about it many times. I drink, I meet, I've partied a lot of my life. I'm living not the most righteous way.
The Vita Loca, I believe is referred to.
I guess. So,
90s reference for all those.
I've been tearing it up since I was 19. So 15 years under my belt. Yeah.
So I would say this. Okay. So first of all, the Sikh spiritual path is something that at any time in our lives, we can start having this reevaluation and getting involved on and walking. And you have been walking it to a degree based on your own admission. And now you're curious about walking further on it. And I think that's beautiful. My advice would first be this. I think there's a big part of us understanding what is this spiritual path.
Yeah.
And first and foremost, don't listen to me.
Yeah.
To connect to the Sikh path, connect to Gurbani, connect to those who are far wiser than me, have those spiritual conversations. But the very fact that you're asking yourself this question, I think is profound, and that's beautiful. So to whatever little knowledge I have, I'll share.
Yeah.
That's that media training again.
Okay.
Right? So I'll say this. For me, what has been very profound is understanding how Sikhi plays a role in my life. And for me, it's to take a step back and to look at it from this perspective. The root of the Sikh path is to understand we're all one.
Yeah.
We're all connected. To then understand that we're one and connected is to recognize that even these strangers on the street, people you never met, that you are too one with them. You're one with the earth. You're one with everything. So the pain that happens to our environment, to others, to whatever it is, outside of your own being is pain that impacts you.
Yeah.
So if you understand this oneness, if you work to understand this oneness so deeply that you then lose yourself in that process, you then become compelled to fight for the injustice of others because you recognize you're one with them as well.
Yeah.
But to then recognize that you are an agent of change, right? That you're meant to uplift this world. You then start to realize that you yourself need to become better.
Yeah.
Because to serve others, you need to become better. And then Sikhi becomes this like virtuous circle. This is why I think Seva and Simran are such important pillars in our path of meditation, of recognizing the oneness within you, and of service, of seva, of recognizing the oneness within others. When you start doing this path, you start realizing that you further need to examine your spiritual path. You then are further motivated to serve others. You then want to improve yourself so you can better serve others. And in that process of improving yourself, you must delve deeper spiritually.
Gotcha.
It's to recognize that Sikhi is a transformative path.
Yeah.
And when you walk this transformative path, you will become better. The vast majority of religions out there say, follow this set of rules.
Yeah.
Check off this list. Go to this building every couple of days. And then when you die, you'll get everlasting joy and peace that you seek.
Which, to a degree, I think, well, instead of like the death part, I don't know. Like, do we have a definition on what happens after death? Or?
This is, so I would say this. Sikhi is far more focused
on life,
how you live your life now. So we're far less focused on promising you the joy and peace that you seek after you die. We're saying walk this transformative path now, and the joy, contentment, happiness, truth you seek now, you will then experience now. So to you, as you walk this path, is to recognize that to walk this spiritual path is not just about following a set of rules. It's adopting a lifestyle. It's adopting a way of living. It's a rahat. And it's an understanding that this is not just discipline. It's discipline in how you live your life every single day, every single moment that transforms you to be better. Gurratan Singh Ji said these powerful lines. When I make sparrows be able to battle a falcon, when I turn sheep into lions, when I uplift the oppressed, when I make one be able to battle 125,000 others, then I will be known as Gobind Singh. Every one of those that he is describing is a transformation from a meek, small bird that can then battle a bird of prey, from sheep to lions, from oppressed to uplifted, from 1 to 125,000. This is the transformative path that we walk. And when you look at that, you start seeing that the lifestyle you're adopting is not this rigid path, but it is a spiritual, mental, physical path of transformation to live and seek the happiness that we all want.
I think that's super important that you're saying that, because that's like to the regular person, that's a lot more palatable than the rigid set of rules that, you were mentioning that other religions or, isms, et cetera, are kind of following, because we have kind of grown up, from my experience, of follow these rules, go to that building, the Gurdwara, sit there for 2 hours or 3 hours on a Sunday, and then that will in turn make you a better person. My experience with something that we've touched on is called the cancel sings, which are, people who follow the path. In my eyes, externally, they got the long beard, they're Amritari, but they're still kind of suffering from, well, you're somebody who has a haircut. You're somebody who eats meat. You're somebody who trims your beard as a thing. You're a piece of shit. I don't need to deal with you. Like, fuck you. And I'm being, aggressive with the language there, but it's kind of like you're an other. Like, there's nothing here for you. Like, you've already given up on the path. Like, you're a throwaway person. Now, I don't really take that stuff too personally because, whatever they've dealt with in their life, they've dealt with it. And I know who I am, right? But that sort of alienation, I think, is going to keep people from kind of coming back to the path against the way that, you've explained it, which is like a lot more of like a pulling force where, like, I think other people are kind of like, well, if you don't follow X, Y, and Z and it's rigid and those constructs are on you, that's the only way you can kind of follow. So they're pushing you towards it, whereas like they're not appealing to the positive side of Sikhi. That's kind of more like if you're not like this, you're excluded from the community type of thing.
This is something I've been reflecting on a lot recently, okay? So we have a Sikh Rat Maryada.
Okay. Yep.
A code of conduct.
Yep.
That was established in around the 20s. Mm-hmm. So someone can fact check me if I'm off this. And it was a period of time which they brought like Sikh experts and thinkers and practitioners together to develop this Maryada, which then the Panth was going to adopt. And we have adopted. It's referred to as the Akal Takht Maryada, that is considered the base level of code of conduct that Sikhs should adopt and live by. And you would imagine that a code of conduct developed more than 100 years ago would be pretty strict. Mm-hmm. The definition of a Sikh that they give is based on belief. Mm-hmm. One who believes in the 10 gurus, the one who believes in the supremacy of the Guru Granth Sahib, mm-hmm. who is committed to Vaheguru, and believes in the institution of Amrit. Yeah. Okay? Not necessarily Amritari, but believes that this is a positive thing that I hope to aspire to one day. Yeah. That is the definition of Sikh, not based on the length of your dharti, mm-hmm. not based on how you look physically, but based on that belief system. Now, there is a distinction between Sikh and Khalsa that exists, right? Those who are fully initiated on the path and those who are Sikhs. Yeah. But to those who would say that others are not Sikhs, I would say, based on the Maryada of not mine, of the Akal Takht, of those very committed Sikhs who developed this code, that if you have this belief in our Panth, in our gurus, mm-hmm. in our institutions, in our way of life, then you're a Sikh. Yeah. And it's not for someone else to then judge you. Mm-hmm. That is for you in your own personal capacity. Yeah. Now, there's a distinction there. Those who then commit themselves to the Khalsa, who are held to a higher standard. Yeah. That, of course, I accept that. Yeah. But I don't think it precludes us to say that who's a part of the Panth? You are also part of the Panth. I'm also part of the Panth. Those who are committed to our path mm-hmm. and who are committed to our community and to our guru, they are part of the Panth.
Absolutely. Again, it's super important to kind of hear because, as we continue to go into the West and, all the traditions that we have, all the, all our religion, in a sense, would you agree or disagree that things are becoming a little bit more watered down as we continue our time over here in Canada, America, in England?
It's more so not watered down. Mm-hmm. It's that we are not, there's like watering down implies you're taking a base mm-hmm. level of knowledge and then you're reducing it. Yeah. To me, it's not even a watered down. It's just a complete lack of knowledge. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't have the research to back this up, but I have a very deep concern that if you talk to Sikhs day to day, mm-hmm. that they wouldn't understand the fact that the Sikh spirituality is about understanding our oneness. About battling our ego. Absolutely. About battling the 5 thieves of spirituality. Absolutely. Right? Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moh, Hankar, lust, anger, greed, attachment, and egotistical pride. That every single moment that you yell out in anger, you are consumed by lust and your wants, when you are held down by your attachments, when you are consumed by your greed, or you think you're better than others with your ego, that you're losing that battle with these 5 thieves. That they are not recognizing that our spiritual path is one of of personal development and growth and spiritual growth. So I don't think it's so much that it's being watered down. I think there's just a lack of knowledge of who we are totally. Like, I think with this idea all the time, in the Sikh way, we recognize that the divinity that we hope to connect with, a spark of that divinity is within us.
Yeah.
Right. So the metaphor is often given like a pail of water being held above the ocean.
Yeah.
Right. So we are of the ocean, but we don't recognize we're of the ocean.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so in that metaphor, we then recognize that we need to then understand this oneness that we have to connect with. I don't think day-to-day Sikhs view the divine in that sense. I think often if you talk to most Sikhs, it's like God is far. They'll point up, right? Like, I think about this all the time when like,
the God's supposed to be
I know, but
trees, leaves, air,
exactly. I'll give this example. It was very like a tragic thing in our community when Sidhu Musala was murdered. Okay. But then I remember seeing the community response to it. And like, they would say, Sidhu, I know you're up there looking down upon us. That's not a Sikh worldview.
Yeah.
We don't believe that heaven is high or low, right? We don't even seek heaven, right? We seek this oneness instead. Or you saw like Sidhu Musala with like angel wings upon him, right? Like that's not a Sikh way of looking at the world. We don't believe in angels. We believe that each of us has that divinity within us, right? We're all divine. We're all profound. So that to me described that, like just anecdotal, seeing our community's response to that made me recognize that there's just like this fundamental lack of knowledge, I think. And that's what prompts me or encourages me to communicate more. So I don't think it's a watering down as much as people want to be connected to a path that they've grown up in, but they've not been provided the tools to properly understand it.
And, from there, how would you say, like, what would be a way to kind of get the message out, like in terms of tools and things like that? I mean, there's a lot of great guys that are kind of teaching these sort of things. I follow that channel, Nanak, things like that. But locally at a grassroots level, how do we kind of, push that message out even further?
Yeah, it's like I said, because I'm from Toronto, so like I can point to resources there. I go to every Sunday, I go to a Gurmat class at a Gurdwara, Danwan Gurdwara in Mississauga. And like it's an amazing class, and they have like a parents class that I go to. And like there's like this beautiful spiritual discourse. Sikh Initiative has started a class every Friday at Regan Road that I was referencing. So like they're happening in Ontario, in BC. I'd
imagine it is. It's probably not something that's readily sought out and sought after.
But I think a big part of it, the conversations I've been having with folks is we actually need to go where people are, and they're actually online.
Yeah.
Right. So like a big part of it is like, it should be physically there as well, but you need to start having these online spaces. Where
Absolutely.
So I think that's a big part of it as well. Like this social media, I was talking to some of my friends and I was like, I'm going on your podcast. And they're like, you have a pretty good awareness in Ontario as well. And I think these conversations are important, right?
Yeah.
To ask those who don't have the spiritual discussion day to day to partake in it.
Have you been on like the online Twitter spaces and stuff?
I'll tell you that this is
it's not spiritual discourse.
I am so okay. Full disclosure.
Yeah.
I am like, I'm pretty sure like they're Indian bots. Who are like, because I'll you can check if they have like 0 followers, right? So I get attacked by a lot of the 0 followers. I have a weird experience in social media where I don't look at the comments. I don't really engage in debates.
You don't read comments at all?
I read very little, right? Very little.
Or how long did it take you to not read comments? Because
I'll tell you, man, like between I got 2 kids, I'm married, I'm working, like putting on social, it's hard for me to put up as much. We had this discussion earlier where I would like to post more on social media, but like I'm busy in life. So I don't get really drawn into that. And also like, I'll be very honest, being in politics has given me like rhinoceros skin. So like I'm really good at like brushing off like what I think is just like tools. So
it's kind of interesting. Like I've been going through that transition where, I was just a regular guy and now, I have a little bit of a following. So like some of the comments still get to me, but like a lot of the times it's whatever, like, it is kind of just like water under the bridge. Like who gives a shit?
Also like the comments I get are so ludicrous. Like they're so violent and extreme that like they can't get under my skin.
Because it's just too
insane. Like the death threats and like, oh man, add it to the list, right? Like so, things that hurt you are things that like,
they're slightly true.
They're slightly true. There has to be something like someone who's like actually a real follower. But like for me, half the time it's just like these trolls. So I'm just like, it's just another death threat.
What usually bugs me is when someone's trying to, change the context. They're trying to adjust the narrative. You know what I mean? Sometimes like I'll get like, oh, well, this guy's saying X, Y, and Z when like I was talking about something completely different. I go back to the thing of cancel sings because that's actually how you and I connected here.
Am I a cancel sing?
I thought you were initially. One of my friends actually, you might know him. Do you know who Leaf Singh is?
Who is
Leaf Singh? He's a big Twitter account.
I think I've seen him on Twitter. Yeah. I don't know who he is personally.
So he's a local guy here.
Okay,
I hate to drop that reveal, but what happened
he's incognito.
Yeah.
He's anonymous.
He's a troll account essentially.
Yeah, but he's like a positive troll account.
Yeah.
He's
really about the cause.
Yeah.
But okay, so I'll give the backstory. Is I had made that video where one of the viewers, he was a young Singh, and he's like, "Hey man, you got a really nice beard. How do you trim it?" Me not thinking about the larger thing, and it kind of goes back to not understanding, the reason that we kind of have, our structures and rules and everything. I, made that video and I was like, it's like, well, I kind of trim it like this, I let it grow, and then I trim it like that, and et cetera, et cetera. And I got this wave of like, what the fuck are you doing? You're a Sikh. You should be telling him not to cut his beard, et cetera, et cetera. And then you chimed in. I don't recall exactly what you said, but it was something to the breadth of some sort of self-hate, internalized, et cetera, et cetera. Could you expand on that point?
I was like a little bit annoyed in the moment.
Yeah.
So I haven't like remembered exactly, but like I'll tell you the visceral response I had was, we all can we all have. Okay.
Or what did you interpret from that video, and what was your response?
What I interpreted from it that I found a little bit hurtful was that it just was, we should love ourselves.
Yeah.
Okay. And a profound, and something why I actually find your content really positive in a lot of senses is that like a lot of it, like you'll talk about controversial individuals, but you say live and let live, like let them, be who they are, etc. And so when I hear about a young Singh who has the Dardi coming in and they might feel a little bit self-conscious, I would have liked anyone to say, just love yourself.
Okay.
Right. Like, and people can then, when you have a platform, if however people can continue to live their life, they go ahead. But I found just a part of it that was just, it didn't sit with me well, was that like the criticism of just how our Dardi can look.
Yeah.
And like, I accept that Sikhs look in many different ways. Like to me, you are not a Sikh. You are expressing your Sikhi in a different way, and I'm expressing myself in a different way as well. We're all part of the Panth, as per our Maryata that says we're all Sikhs based on our belief system. So I just did, the way it was framing it, to me, I thought of that young Singh watching that video who might be between keeping his Dardi
and not
his Dardi,
and pushing him.
And then seeing your video and being like, does it look bad?
Yeah.
When I think it looks beautiful.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to challenge you on that point.
Absolutely.
Right?
So, we got to talking after that, and like, again, like I thought about it.
For the viewers.
Yeah.
He messaged me, DM'd me, and then he took the video down. And it was like, I found that was really mature. Right? Like you heard a positive criticism and you said, hey man, like that wasn't a good move. And so like I think that was a point of your growth. Like that was a cool thing.
I think, what it was is that there's a few guys in life that I would actually, take that from. And, I do view you as somebody who's been a positive role model for, Sikhi, in all those things. I spoke to my friend about, I'm like, Gurratan Singh came at me and he's like, well, he's not a cancel Singh. And I was like, okay, fair enough. I got to view this through a different lens. So I viewed that.
So I'm not a cancel Singh.
Yeah. Because the cancel Singhs will just, they say the most outlandish shit. And they try to bully you into taking videos down, this, that, and the other. And, I had this one conversation with this guy where, he was messaging me from like a blank account. I believe it was your ghost account, but but he's like,
I don't have any ghost
accounts. He's like, but he's like, you're a piece of shit. Like, fuck you. I can't believe you would do this. And I started to like try to have a real conversation, much like I had with you, where I was like, well, tell me what it means to be a bad Sikh. He's like, well, you just told that guy to cut his beard, this and that. I was like, okay, fair enough. That's wrong. I was like, but I try to use my platform for also a lot of good too. Like I do advertise people's businesses on my platform. I'm adding this as a plug. So I can use that money to pay for kids kickboxing training at Peaceful
really
Martial
cool.
Arts. Yeah, I do that, right? Because I just feel it's kind of cheap if I ask someone for $100 to post a story. Like, what am I going to do with that? Right?
Yeah.
So I can absolve some of my sins
Yeah.
by giving this charity. But this guy
we'll talk about absolving.
Yeah.
Sins. That's also not a Sikh idea necessarily, but we'll get that later on.
Just makes me feel better. This guy turned around and said, well, all the good that you did in the community is gone to shit because of this one video. And I was just like, that's the level of, thinking that this guy had, right? He's like, everything good that you've done has gone to shit because you made this one video here. So I kind of circled back and I'm like, okay, well, Gurratan Singh's not that because you were willing to have that conversation.
Even I remember my criticism of you wasn't like a bunch of like expletives.
No.
It was I wrote down like I was aggressive. Systematic breakdown. But there was like, this is problematic for these reasons.
And like, I've always been reluctant to take videos down just because I feel that like once they got you doing that, then the cancel things, it's like this, like, they're like piranhas, they'll start getting at you for everything. So I've always been reluctant, but in that video, I was like, I think Gurratan Singh is coming from a great place. This is someone that I can actually learn from. This is actually someone that I do respect. So, I'm gonna
don't respect me too much.
Yeah,
I'll let you down.
Well, I respect your persona. I respect the idea.
I'm just trying my best. I always put the disclaimer in because I'm just a guy too. And
absolutely.
Yeah.
So that was kind of that entire thing. So I was like, you know what? I think I do need to take that video down because I guess it is viewed as hurtful to other people.
It's just like I said, the main thing is that it's, as we all know, it can be hard. Like the beautiful thing with the Sikh way is that we are meant to stand out. Yeah. We're actually not meant to hide. We are meant to be a flag of our beliefs. Yeah. And when you see a Sikh, this is why historically, often there's a tradition of people in South Asia, particularly, who would say, if you're in trouble, go to a Sikh. Yeah. Because Sikhs are meant to be people of high integrity and high principle who will uphold your dignity and help protect you and keep you safe. And so in that process, we're meant to be distinct and we're meant to have the surup, which I think is beautiful. Yeah. But everyone can struggle with looking so distinct in a world where I think everyone is being increasingly looking like homogenous. Like there's just like, I look at the world now and I'm like, everywhere you travel, everyone kind of looks the same now, right? It's the same haircuts, it's the same jeans, it's the same shirts. It's like whether you go to any part of the world, everyone's dressing similarly. Absolutely. And I think diversity is beautiful. And our Sikh month, we love diversity. Like the Sikh spiritual way loves diversity. And so what I found problematic was that I just want us to love that young Sikh boy who's growing in that phase. And then, whatever path he goes on, but at least let us be in a position to support him. Yeah. And this is that idea of like, we recognize what we should aspire to, but accept that we may not be there. Gotcha. No, and looking back on it, that is absolutely the truth. Like, should guide people on the right way, even if us ourselves aren't quite there. Now, this is another thing that I've kind of been coming to terms with lately is that people tell me now, it's like, you have a greater responsibility now that you have a little bit of a platform. Whereas like, I kind of look at that as like, why do I have the responsibility when I was building my platform? No one really kind of helped me build it. Like, of course, people who supported me, all that's been great. And they've gotten me to where I'm extremely grateful for that. But they got me there not by telling me that I have to, be one way. They accepted me for who I am. But now that I have a little bit of a voice, there's outside forces who are saying that you have this responsibility to put on a good example or this and that. And I do feel like I live in a very positive way. I'm sure I make my mistakes but I find that the mistakes I make are kind of more like to my own damning rather than, affecting people negatively on the external. Where does that come from? Where people will put that responsibility on you and be like, you have a responsibility for the community now. Because I know that you have that now. And I guess you do live somewhat positively from your own admission. I would say fully positively, but from your own admission. I was about that disclaimer. Yeah. I'll say this. Yeah. So I don't want to comment about you specifically. Yeah. I'm not here to tell you what to do or not to do. I did it once. I'm using me as like an example. As a straw man. I'll just say this, that in general, I think which is interesting for the Sikh in general is that like, there's always been a tradition of people looking at Sardars as Singhs with a sense of what we said earlier, right? Like they're if we look back to our earlier conversation on like this being a transformative path, there's always been this sense that those who have that physical flag or are keeping aspects of it, of the Sarup of a Sikh, that they are then held to a higher standard. This is something I think that's happened historically within our Panth. And I think there's just a degree of people negotiating what that means in like a modern social media world. Yeah. So I think generally, like when the content I see, I know you do a bunch of things and you're in a lot of different spaces, but like, I think as long as we're all aspiring to do better every day and recognizing our limitations, like people might look at me and say, I don't match up to their level of what. Yeah, I get it. I've gotten growing up, like different, groups of Sikhs may think that I'm not living up to their standards. Yeah. And I think it's just accepting. It's like there has to be a degree of humility where we say, I am where I am now. I'm trying my best to do better, but this is where I am. And as long as you have that in your mind, I think, you'll figure it out. There's the beautiful thing with Sikhi and what I find really amazing. There's this idea in Gurbani called Mandavani. Okay. And Mandavani is a riddle. And in Sikhi, there's very clear aspects on some of our principles. Yep. Okay, around justice, compassion, and love, and how we treat with one another. But we're also often asked to solve riddles. This reference of Mandavani comes up in Gurbani, and we're actually asked as the reader to contemplate this riddle. Okay. And I thought of that, and it made me think, what a profound path that we walk, where often the experience that we're trying to feel, the knowledge we're hoping to gain, it's not laid out to us in a binary of like right and wrong, this and that. We have some very clear principles, but when it comes to deeper ideas of how do we walk the spiritual path, how do we battle the ego, how do we live within society, but then remain detached from it? Yeah. I think those are all riddles that we're trying to figure out. And the Sikh way will often ask us to contemplate these riddles, but also in our life, I think we have to contemplate the riddle of life and recognize that more often than not, life is like a riddle that we're trying to figure out. Yeah. And as long as you are guided by positive principles, you will then reach the correct destination. Yeah. So I think there's a component of the question asked me to say that you're going to figure it out. And as long as you're inspired by the Sikh foundational ideas around love and justice and equality, you'll get to where you need to go.
How would you know that you've reached a point of figuring out, like, not like the overarching riddle of life, but, just certain things along the way? How would you know that? Is that like a feeling of, clarity and peace and things like that? But there's a lot of people who, I'm sure you've met them, that think they know everything, that are solid in their base. And maybe they kind of lose the illusion, or not the illusion, but they lose the idea of learning more because they think like, I got it figured out. So how would you actually profoundly know? Because then you'd be rooted in your ego, right?
Yeah. So this is the riddle, right? Yeah. So I'll say I'm not someone who's even close to that. Like,
of course.
Right. This is what I think. I think that historically, whenever we've seen the Sikhs that we look to as Sikhs that really embodied the spirit of Sant Sipahi, a spiritual warrior, one who is both a Sant, who is contemplative and reflective and looking to understand this deeper understanding of our oneness, but then inspired by that oneness, they become a warrior who is physically able to defend and help others, who understands that being a warrior is not just about physicality as well. It's about your intellect, it's about strategy. Yeah. So understanding the vast degrees of factors involved in warfare.
Almost like a samurai philosophy.
100%.
The same type of thing, yeah.
I think the Sant Sipahi philosophy is far more profound.
Okay.
I think it's more profound because it is something that is rooted in compassion and love as a motivator for then physical prowess and responsibility to always never attack, but to defend. Yeah. Right? So there's these very strict rules of engagement, but they're all inspired by love and oneness. Yeah. So historically, when we look at the Sikhs that we look to as those who held that high state, be it, Baba Deep Singh or Kalifullah Singh, or all these Sikhs that we look at, they were always involved both in spiritual meditation and focus, that inner exploration of oneness. Yeah. But there was always a physical manifestation of it as well. Yeah. So when I look at the world and I see those Sikhs who are both connected to Gurbani and that lifestyle of oneness, but are also physically involved and fighting at the front lines of fighting injustice. To me, those are individuals who I think are actually walking this path, because that's what's so unique about the Sikh way. We're a Sikh path that vast majority of religions say, if you want to experience this spiritual enlightenment. So even those who talk about like experiencing enlightenment now, they will say you have to leave society, right?
Is that still one of our concepts, like enlightenment, like a destination kind of where we lead to? Like, is that one of our things, or did we adopt that from Buddhism or even like the Hindu religion or anything like that?
So two things.
Concept of nirvana, whatever that is.
Yeah. So this is a great conversation.
Yeah.
Two things. Let's start by saying this. The Sikh way, in my understanding of it, and as Sikhs, how we look at it is completely unique and distinct. And our beliefs are self-originated from our gurus, right? So the gurus who are one with the divine originated this divine path of Sikhi.
Did we originate a lot of those? Because, like, I mean, there are parallels, right? I mean, and I think that is from religions that were all across the world. I think even, Islam teaches, certain aspects that we can draw parallels from. Christianity draws parallels, that we can draw from. So in terms of like it originating, and Guru Nanak Dev Ji was here, I guess in the 1500s,
15th
right?
century.
15th century. It's a pretty new religion. That's 600 years. So would they have originated from him, or as his travels across, India and, what's now known to be Pakistan and things like that, like, wouldn't he have picked up little tidbits along the way and kind of melded them into what he thought, considering whatever connection he got from around as well?
Yeah. So let me give you my understanding of it. Okay. So when we first when we start to describe the gurus, the gurus are for us as Sikhs beings who are one with the divine. So to be one with the divine is to say that they were enlightened. But what does that mean? They were beings who had no ego. Within them was that divine force of Vaheguru. They were one with divinity. To me, if you recognize that and you understand that, that means they were not just one in that moment. They're one with all reality. The gurus were one and understood and experienced timelessness, right? So when we describe the divine in Gurbani, we're describing the aspects that we too hope to adopt, because there's no difference, right? There's only one. The gurus had experienced and understood that there is only one. So when the knowledge that they provided, I think there's aspects of it that were they shared in a fashion that was culturally relevant. So there's references to different spiritual traditions, be it Islam, Hinduism, or Buddhism, but it was to reframe and re-understand these ideas in the context of this new revolutionary path. So they described different aspects of, what is a true sadhu? What is someone who's on the spiritual path? What is a true person devoted to Islam? They would say it's someone who makes meditation their prayer bead. When they talk about what is the true pilgrimage is of one trying to understand the divinity in all, not going to a physical place. So to me, it is not that the tidbits were informing Sikhi. It was that the cultural context was used to provide a mechanism to communicate this revolutionary new Sikh way of thinking.
Because a lot of that, probably couldn't be placed into words that were available to us at that time as well.
It's just the cultural context, right? And this cultural context is still relevant today. So when we look at it, though, we have to recognize that, and I think with this a lot, like to recognize, and it's indescribable. We can't put into words this state of oneness, but to recognize that Guru Nanak Sahib Ji was divine, or was merged with this oneness, means that he understood that we'd be having this conversation right now. He understood what we'd be having a conversation, whoever would be speaking 1,000 years ago, or in the multiple universes that existed. So when you understand that the Guru was not just a spiritual guy, the Guru was one who was moved by the divinity of Vaheguru, then you understand that the knowledge we have, that we are witness to, is not just his reflections, it is divinely inspired. And that's how that will give you a different relationship or understanding of that knowledge. Of
I mean, it's a big idea you know, to
huge idea.
to ponder on that, you know what I mean? And I mean, kind of tough to put into words how that goes, but you know, even our gurus, like they, you know, they had families, you know, they carried on their lineage and things like that. So they were still kind of grounded in the sense of the human experience.
And that's what's so beautiful, because to my earlier point, the vast majority of spiritual traditions to attain enlightenment for mukti, and that's something we aspire to, but our enlightenment is different.
Yeah.
Our enlightenment is like the way nirvana is described. Nirvana in the Buddhist path is described as the blowing out of a candle. The premise of Buddhist, the spiritual path is life is suffering. So the cessation of that experience is then nirvana, the peace that they ascribe to. Sikhi doesn't say that. Sikhi says that there are struggles and there are obstacles we experience in life. Yeah. But our spiritual goal, let me get a hit of this. Getting raspy on you. Is one I could not clear. Get some hydration. Let me just go off the top for that. So what I was saying was that, and this is a great conversation, by the way. I'm really enjoying this. So, okay. So in the Buddha, the foundation of the Buddhist spirituality is that the Buddhist way is that life is suffering, and then the cessation of that suffering is enlightenment. So that's nirvana, and nirvana is described almost poetically as like the blowing out of this light of a candle.
Almost like a relief.
It's nothingness, often described. And Sikhi is the very opposite of that. It's everythingness. It is oneness. Ik Onkar is to say that all reality, there's only oneness that we hope to understand. And that by merging with that everything, by recognizing that you too are part of that infinity, that infinity is within you, then you obtain the peace, love, joy that you seek. So it's profoundly different in terms of what that path means. So in the Sikh way, in other spiritual traditions, to attain, let me give the distinction there. So in other spiritual traditions like Buddhism or aspects of Hinduism, or even other traditions, you're meant to like go to the monastery or go to the jungle as a sadhu, and then through there, by removing yourself from society, you can then have that spiritual experience of oneness. In Sikhi, we say the exact opposite. We see that living within society is the best arena to battle the ego and to then seek and obtain this enlightenment.
Because everything's a test, you know?
Everything's a test. But even beyond that, it's this, I always say this, oneness is hollow if it doesn't compel you to help others. Even if you're in that jungle and you're meditating and you're recognizing that we're all one and all connected, if that is your spiritual goal, then the conclusion should be then you are motivated to then go into the real world and then fight for the upliftment of others. If we think of one of the most profound Sikhs, Banda Singh Bahadur, who initially was a recluse who was in the jungles meditating, but then because of Guru Gobind Singh Ji became this warrior who then fought injustice, that's the experience. If you understand that we're all one and all connected, then you must be compelled to fight for the upliftment of others. Gotcha. And if you're stuck in this arena of just the jungle, you're not going to be able to serve others.
Now, coming to that, one man, let's say, we pick one guy whose entire life is devoted to helping others, living righteously. He follows the path like 100%. You know, every single day he wakes up, he goes to seva. And that's not just saying that he goes to the Gurdwara and, washes the pande or serves langar or anything like that. But he's doing seva every single day. He's helping the lady in his building carry her stuff upstairs. He goes back home. He's helping someone fix their TV. He's using his free time to hand out food on the downtown east side. Like every single minute of his life is devoted.
Can I challenge that a little bit too?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I don't want to cut your flow. You're in a flow, right? So your point, I'll come to that.
So he spends his entire life in service and he does it selflessly. I mean, in essence, he'd be getting some sort of satisfaction from, helping others and things like that, even though he's gone, all the way. At the end of his life, and let's say he lives till 80, he started helping people when he was 5 years old, I guess, when he was able to start.
You're really thinking this out, man. You're putting all the conditions in.
I'm kind of making it up as I go along. But he spent his whole life. Yeah. He still only scratched the surface. Like his impact on the world, it might be big in that little circle, but on the overarching history of, you know, humans and everything, it's kind of just like a little thing. How would that, you know, like, would that be a person who's possible to reach this enlightenment stage and reach this like oneness with everyone?
So we don't know.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing.
Because there are certain people who do kind of do that. Like I would say Ravi Singh from Khalsa, from the outside looking in, seems like he's dedicated a large part of his life to, you know, help humanity. I know there's some people that work on the downtown east side every single, you know, weekend, and they're fully in with Guru Nanak Dev Ji kitchen.
Yeah, free kitchen.
You know, the free kitchen that they kind of do. Have you connected with those people?
I met them in the past. Yeah. I think I just ran into them recently, actually.
Yeah.
I think someone was at the bar we were at.
Oh, was he?
They were there.
Okay.
Yeah.
But, you know, these are people who are devoting their lives to it. Can the regular man achieve, you know, a state of enlightenment?
So, like the Sikh way.
Yeah.
And this was, I think, why increasingly Sikhi, if we can really work to successfully communicate these ideas, has so much relevance day to day. Because the Sikh way is meant to do exactly what you're describing. Yeah. The Sikh way is meant to provide a path, a transformative spiritual path for those who live within society. Yeah. And that's why it's so relevant. So many other spiritualities is about like the goal would be to become a monk and then leave society, or become a sadhu and leave society. Sikhi says no. How can we provide you a spiritual path where within society, while having family if you choose, while having kids if you're able to, or if you choose, you can then still walk this spiritual path, living amongst society and living amongst others. And that's why I think the knowledge is so profoundly applicable today. And this is the timeless nature of it, because that's an aspect of, it's required for the continuation of humanity, to have families, etc. So 100% the path is meant to apply to those individuals. And the beautiful thing about the Sikh way is that we don't really focus too much on what happens after you die. Yeah. But there's an understanding that while you're given this human life, you have this opportunity to understand we're all one and connected. Absolutely. And if you don't understand it while you're living, you continue your journey, and you then will come back to human life at one point and have another opportunity. What's so beautiful. So
do we believe in reincarnation? Like,
yeah. So there's like, we believe in, Gurbani makes references to reincarnation, but also Gurbani is this beautiful, like they use a lot of poetic references as well. The way I understand it is that we recognize that you continue your journey. Yeah. Like the reason why I'm being a little bit cautious in my language is because when you talk reincarnation, people then start thinking like, is it like exactly this life next, or this life
coming
again?
Back as a dog,
right? Or you're coming back
eat bird, or
we don't know we come back. Yeah. Right. But I'll say this, like in Sikh terminology, when someone dies, the language is Chadai kar gaya. They've gone to continue their journey. Yeah. What does that manifest as? Well, we're one with all. And it could you be coming back in a variety of ways, or maybe it's like this universe is infinite. Who knows where we come back? Who knows those aspects of it? But the point, I think, is more important. So instead of getting fixated on the exact progression, and that's why I'm being a little bit cautious, is not, we believe in a continued journey, and the human life is the opportunity to merge with the one. And so that we believe in for sure, but I'm being cautious because I don't want to get stuck in like a deeper focus on, you know, that next path, what it could be, but the journey continues. Absolutely. And the point of that continuation of that journey is to learn and grow spiritually. And then you will then be given another opportunity. Yeah. You continually get opportunities to merge with the oneness until finally your spiritual journey is completed and you, while living, experience that oneness.
Now, confirmation of something beyond this. Have you seen that physically manifested, or has that kind of just been an internal look through meditations and things like that? Because
what do you mean by that?
Well, there are certain things that you can kind of use. Like I'm someone who's dabbled in psychedelics. You know, I've done mushrooms and I did DMT a couple of times, which definitely opens you up to whatever it is. Maybe that's just an effect of these substances. I don't know, but I felt like, you know, deep love and deep connection with just my surroundings. You know, sometimes you can see the trees breathe. With DMT, you're like, there's confirmation that there's something beyond here.
Beyond here, you mean like beyond this?
Beyond just this, like you and I, like, I don't know. The way I could.
Do you mean beyond this, like now, or beyond?
Just everything. Like, okay. So I can explain the experience to you, is that everything kind of starts breaking down into like these like, it's almost like this like Lego, and you're poof, you're gone. And there was this one hallway that I was walking through. Every part of me was coming off. You know, like my lips were coming off, beard's coming off. They're disassembling me. And now I'm just this being that walked through this door. And when I walked through this door, it launched me to see everything. This is a psychedelic hour.
I'm like, what did I sign up to?
You didn't think that was water? You were thinking
it was sealed, folks. Sealed.
But I was launched into this thing, and I could see this it was almost like this globe of energy. And like, to me in that moment, I was like, okay, I now know that there's something beyond the physical. Like I have that confirmation. Can you achieve that and understanding that confirmation where you know, just through meditation and understanding of life in general?
So I'll say this.
Like what was your moment of confirmation is kind of what I'm trying to get at.
The moment of confirmation is something.
And you are sober. You've been sober forever.
I've never taken any substances ever. So I'm and I'll talk about this actually a little bit, because I'm critical of this a little bit.
Yeah.
And we're having a good conversation.
Yeah.
So I hope you don't take offense.
No.
I don't think the spiritual path is that easy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the spiritual path is that easy where you can just take something, ingest it, and all of a sudden you're then able to experience something so profound.
Yeah.
The foundation of the Sikh way is to understand that we live within an illusion, Maya. The Maya, the experience of the illusion is the fact that I see you as separate as me. I see this earth separate as me. I see everything separate as me. Mm-hmm. And the way to battle this Maya is by battling our ego. Mm-hmm. It's by going to war against the 5 enemies: Kam, Krodh, Lo, Moh, Hankar, lust, anger, greed, attachment, and egotistical pride. It's by recognizing that every single moment you're in battle with these 5 thieves. That when you yell out in anger, you've lost that battle. When you're consumed by your wants and lusts, you lost that battle. When you are bound down by your attachments or consumed by your greed or can't learn from others because of your ego, you're lost that battle. And to engage in that spiritual path is to remove ourselves from the illusion. Mm-hmm. Substances, in the Sikh way, we say drive us deeper into the illusion. Okay. It drives us deeper into the illusion because your experience is still ego-based. Yeah. We must battle the ego by recognizing our oneness.
Could there not be, and sorry to cut you off there, but could there not be, because you know how like you can apply a positive mindset to anything and you can apply a negative mindset to something. Could there not be a reality where there are certain things that, you know, people can take as tools to achieve something else? And I get what you're saying is that if you have to use something externally, then maybe like,
well, I'll give you this.
Okay.
It wore off. Yeah. Right?
It did. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're back to where you are.
Well, I mean, I've never been the same.
Whatever. Like you need to continue to consume the substance.
I guess so.
In the Sikh way, we hope to consume the Naam, right? This is the spiritual process of meditating on this divine. Mm-hmm. And the high of the Naam never goes away. Yeah. The high of the Naam gives you clarity and focus. Mm-hmm. The high of the Naam has you connected with oneness and also compels you to fight for justice. Yeah. The experience of Naam is something that never leaves you and allows you beyond that to be able to face your deepest adversities with a smile on your face. Yeah. I don't imagine when you're in the depths of that experience, you then be all of a sudden be capable of fighting injustice, or you're probably, a bit paralyzed, or you're right. Yes. Right. Exactly. Yeah. Right. In Sikhi, you'll experience this profound deepness of love and connection, but then at the same time, be able to go to war against not just your ego, but physically against injustice. You are put in a position of this state that we hope to aspire to be. The Sant Sipahi is someone who is both spiritually in Anand. Like we use this language, we all sing Anand song. Yeah. Anand is like this deep, profound bliss that we hope to understand and experience. We talk about in Gurbani merging with the oneness like water merging with water. Mm-hmm. If I take 2 cups of water and I merge them together, you can't pull out the previous cup of water. Yeah. They're one, they're connected. Yeah. That is the profound spiritual experience that we hope to feel. but then still at the same time have clarity of mind and focus to live in this world and serve others.
Yeah.
So to give you an example, like you're in the depths of this trip, right? And let's say, you know, like someone needed help all of a sudden in that moment, right? Or let's say you had like for me, I'm a dad, like your kid needs you to do something. You'd like, give me 24 hours. I've seen the videos on TikTok when like people are doing ayahuasca, they gotta like throw up and like, beside them. You are debilitated.
I do not advocate doing psychedelics in front of your kids.
But my point is, in the Sikh tradition, we have
to be ready.
We are tiyar bar tiyar, right? Tiyar bar tiyar is to be perpetually prepared. Because there was a state in which Sikhs were being hunted to elimination. And any single moment, they could be attacked, killed, their families maimed, and more. And so Sikhs fostered this spiritual belief and lifestyle established by our gurus, where they were ready every single moment at any call to then fight for injustice. I think the world we're living in increasingly is one of precarity. And where we need to
What's the definition of precarity?
Precarity is like unstable. It's precarity is it's a position in which there's insecurities. You don't there's more uncertainties that exist.
I'm gonna try to break that out at a party. You know,
precarity. Precarious work. Right? So we're continually in a state where there's more uncertainty and there's more of a need to serve others. I see this increasingly, people like advocating, hey, let me go down this spiritual path. I say two things. Number one, it's not that easy. Number two, it wears off. Number three, it doesn't align with the Sikh way, because then you are knocked out for X period. Aside from the fact that it also delves you deeper in the illusion, it also wears off. It also, you're not able to serve during those times. I actually think that those experiences are profoundly ego-based. They're ego-based because the heart of Sikhi is these two blades that we've been given, these two tools we've been given of seva and simran. So everything, like what is our North Star? How do we know we're living this spiritual life? Are you feeling deeper, not just empathy, but compassion for all those around you? And then compelled by that compassion, are you able to serve those around you greater? When I hear this experience of someone who's like ingesting something and just like kicking back, this kind of seems like to me it's an ego experience, because in that exact moment, you're not serving, you're not helping, you're not uplifting. I find so much joy. Like you're asking me like, when did I get confirmation of something beyond this? Every moment I see an act of love and altruism. Every time I see someone sacrifice that food off their plate to feed someone else. When I see someone put their own life at risk to speak up for justice. When I see someone sacrifice something that's so important to them to help others, to me is the confirmation that there's something far beyond this life.
Got it.
And that has always been a far greater motivator.
You know, it's when you mentioned the whole thing of like you ingest these things and, you know, you kind of sit back and kick back, like to me that is kind of like that's not the way, like, and I'm not trying to be this huge advocate for psychedelics or anything, but what I would say,
I'll say this. So this is interesting because I've commented on this a little bit on social media, and I want to talk about it more because I see people in our community doing it more and more. And I'm like, man, you, like, get in the depth, like, go to a Simran session. Right. Sit down in Sangat. When you start jumping Nam amongst your fellow Sikhs. And like when you have tanti saj, like these beautiful musical instruments crafted by our guru's own hands, right? Singing Gurbani written by our gurus in a script that they developed. Like what a profoundly beautiful place to be in. And that when you're in the depths of Nam, if something is required, you're able to get up with more motivation, more strength, more compassion. And serve at the same time. To me, that's a deeper spiritual experience.
Infinitely more powerful.
Than ingesting something and then tripping out in a room for a little bit. Right?
I mean, those experiences, I would say that, you know, because of the reflection that you do oftentimes come out a better person. Like my understanding and, you know, definitely my compassion and things like that have grown from those experiences. But in all honesty, I can say that in my adult life, I've never actually gone the way that you're saying. It's like, sitting in like and listening to Gurbani with the Shabds and all that kind of stuff. I've never gone through that experience. So maybe that's something I kind of need to.
I'll give you also another just anecdote. There's this book called Be Here Now, and it's written by this, I forget his name exactly. If you Google Be Here Now.
Is it the same thing as like Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now? Or?
No, it's totally different.
Okay,
and
gotcha.
So basically it was just like, I might be messing up a little bit, but basically the gist of it was this, I think it was a PhD, some sort of individual. They were doing tests with acid at that time. Yep. And so he was like one of the first people to start taking acid. He started doing it a lot. Yeah. And then he like lost everything.
Yeah.
He goes to South Asia and he brings with him some sort of psychedelics. And then he starts like giving them to people. This is like the preface of the book, talks about this experience. And he starts giving it to different people and like, pseudo spiritual people, whatever. He gives it to one person who's like, this is really good. Give me some more. Yeah. He gives it to another guy. He's like, it gives me a headache. He gives it to this third person who's like this deeply spiritual individual. And he takes it. And the guy, he like in the book, it describes how he takes one pill, he takes the second, he takes the third. And the guy's like, this is a lot. This is a huge dose this guy's taking. Yeah. And he takes a fourth. And then he looks at him and he goes, it's all right, but meditation's a lot better. Yeah. And so the idea, and I'm just giving that as a reference. And this book, it's called Be Here Now. And it's like this interesting spiritual discussion he has. And the idea is that, maybe I've never taken substance.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe you got some benefit from it. I don't know. Yeah. But I was saying on the Sikh way, it is in contradiction with our way. Yeah. For the reasons that absolutely we would say that it delves you deeper into the illusion. We would say that it is something that prevents you from being able to serve others. It disempowers you for that process because in Sikhi we're meant to be Tiyar, but Tiyar is able to serve. And lastly, it can't be that easy. Yeah. It can't be that easy that something as profound as battling our ego and understanding ourselves and understanding this spiritual journey that we're on, that it's as easy as taking a pill. Got it. It's kind of like, the idea of like, I'll give it a reference, like Ozempic, right? So like, you really want to get healthy, you got to work out. Yeah. You have to like
sleep and work out.
Train. It's a warrior lifestyle to become healthy. In Sikhi, and you can't just if you just take a medication, those who are medically have to, of course, I'm not giving that example. I'm giving those who are doing it just for like vanity. Yeah. And there's obviously the negative impacts of that. Yeah. So in the same way that to be truly healthy, you need to live this disciplined lifestyle. To be truly spiritual, you must live this very disciplined lifestyle that will actually give you lasting results.
Gotcha. There's Sikh sects like the Nihang Singhs who, do the Ragada, which is, like marijuana tea in essence, right? Now, a lot of Nihang Singhs are Khalsas, right? They're Amritari and, they follow the path. Where did that kind of enter in, like the marijuana part? Or the bhang?
So like I would say like in a Sikh tradition, it's very clear we're not supposed to use any intoxicants at all. So I don't know, I'm able to, things I know and things I don't know. My understanding has been explained to me by others that like it could have been a form of like medication at that time, right? Like a painkiller of some sort. But the Sikh practice should have no, barring a medicine that you need to get better, you should have no consumption of any intoxicants at all, right?
We drink cha all the time though. I mean, caffeine is a stimulant, things like that.
I would say that there's a distinction between an intoxicant and like a caffeine, right? So it's like, I think there's a distinction there. Intoxicant is something that like you start to lose you can like trip out and you can lose your senses.
Well, alcohol being the main one.
Being the main one, right?
I would like to get into this discussion as well.
Yeah. So I for me, just to address your earlier point, I would say that I don't know the exact historical root of it. Yeah. I can surmise based on what people said to me about maybe its application during war as a pain medication of some sort. But as a day-to-day practice, Sikhs should consume no intoxicants, including marijuana and ragada or whatever in that form. And I'm open in the Sikh tradition's opposition to all forms of intoxicants in that sense. Though a toxin that I think we're facing more directly as Sikhs right now is, I would say, our relationship with alcohol.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can actually give a little bit of background now. I've never been like somebody who struggled with alcohol from the definition of like, oh, this guy just drinks all day, he doesn't go to work and things like that. But I think there is a spectrum of struggling with alcohol. Like, I've drank since probably I think I had my first drink when I was like maybe like 17 or 18. And I probably started drinking consistently when I was maybe 23, 24. That's like, and up until now. So it's been like 10 plus years, 12 years of, indulging in alcohol. I would say that, and I can admit it, that there is a problem. Now, it's not the type of problem where I stop going to work, like I said, or I stop getting my stuff done, or even that I would consider myself like a functioning alcoholic, but I do indulge, maybe get drunk, every 2 weeks, I'd say, where it's like a big session where I get together with friends and things like that. We might get together. In our community, it's extremely prevalent. How do we kind of, view it, overlook it? I know you're a big advocate against, alcohol as well. Like, how do we just kind of like shed some light on why we have this issue and why it's so prevalent in our community?
Yeah, so I'll tell you from personal experience, right? Like we have my brother wrote a book that described it pretty fully, but my dad suffered from alcoholism for years.
Yeah.
And I grew up in a household where thus my opposition to intoxicants is not just based on our Sikh way of life. It's also based on personal experience. I saw someone struggle with it. And
if you could get into the struggle, like what was like the quantity or how often or things like that, would you like to touch on that?
I'm an open book, no pun intended, because there's literally a book that describes it. But like my dad almost lost his life from drinking alcohol. It was so bad. Like he was on a walker at one point. It was like he was really deeply addicted. I think they describe it as like end stage alcoholic, where you're unable to consume physical food anymore.
Oh, wow.
So you're only drinking alcohol. Your body is actually unable to consume physical, any sort of food. And he was hospitalized from it. And he fought. And he fought very strongly to beat the addiction. And it's through connecting to Siki that he actually got the strength to overcome it. But growing up, for me, and understanding Sikhi as well, is that I'd never not drink alcohol because it was told to me that you're not supposed to drink alcohol. I didn't drink alcohol because it was taught to me that as a Sikh way of life, we want to be in our best ability to help and serve others. We want to be compassionate and loving.
Yeah.
We want to remove ourselves from the illusion.
Yeah.
And that alcohol drives us deeper.
Oh, definitely does. Yeah.
And it drives us into this illusion in a way that prevents us from carrying out our mission as Sikhs. We want to better ourselves, not to get larger cars and bigger homes. You should be successful, but for the goal of uplifting humanity, uplifting all. Sarbat Pala is actually interesting. It's for the betterment of all, not just humanity, for the betterment of our nature, of animals, of everything, of all existence. Alcohol is something that drives us deeper into an illusion. I think it's a substance that doesn't just feed an intoxication, it feeds our ego.
Definitely. Yeah.
And when it feeds our ego, it draws us further from the spiritual path. I didn't drink alcohol not just because my dad was someone who suffered from an addiction. I didn't drink alcohol because it was taught to me that it was something that fed our ego. It drives us deeper into the illusion. That makes us more selfish and self-centered in that moment. You wallow. We talk about it, right? People wallowing in their glasses, because that's the experience that alcohol does to us. And I see it as a destructive force.
Yeah.
The amount of times that you see people who drink and then start immediately becoming violent or angry or upset. So it's a very disruptive substance.
I mean, that's not with everyone. I mean, there are some people who are happy drunks or, things 100%. Like that.
But I'll tell you, a happy drunk, I always
feels like shit the next day.
Feels like garbage the next day. But I'll also say this. How often does someone start as a happy drunk and then end as a crying drunk? Right? Like I've seen this where they drink and they get happy and they're laughing.
Some people, I don't know. I mean, that does happen, but I don't think the exception makes the rule there. There is like a big issue with alcohol. Like I think we all know it's a destructive force within us. I don't think anybody drinks and says like, yeah, I'm like doing an awesome thing. It's I don't know why we drink. Honestly, it's a lot of fun per se. I don't think it's But I don't think it's controversial to say that, we all know that we're doing something negative to ourselves. And
increasingly,
yeah.
Increasingly the studies and research is very clear that it's cancer causing, it's bad for our health, it makes us feel like garbage the next day.
Yeah, gets you fat,
Totally. Huge amount of empty calories.
Anxiety, depression, that's all there. Like we've all exhibited feelings of like depression because of a hangover, whether or not that, stays on forever or whatever. And I think that's why some people do kind of continue to drink as well to alleviate those symptoms.
100%. And then like a self-medication, they describe it, right? So people who have some internal issue and they don't want to deal with it. And instead of dealing with it, they then start to, they go to a substance to forget it.
Yeah, absolutely. How do you kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? How do we combat these things? Aside from like, maybe somebody's not ready to go on the full path of Sikhi per se.
Yeah.
And like, I've had my bouts of, sobriety and stuff where I've gone maybe, 3 months or 4 months or, 30 days and you feel awesome. And then there's moments of celebration where you kind of be like, I'm with the boys again, let's drink, let's, have a good time. How do we kind of combat that as a community? Because it's so prevalent within our culture now. Not our religion, but in Punjabi culture. And this kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier, is that over here in the West and where we've become even so capitalistic, where we goes against what our religion teaches us, but culturally, we're so vastly different.
So this is a really interesting conversation. I think about it all the time. And I heard someone describe it as this. So in Punjab, we have very deep culture of giving. Mm-hmm. And we have a great culture of hospitality. Mm-hmm. And so I've experienced this in friends that I know who they don't drink at all.
Yeah.
But the pressures of alcohol are so deep that I know a couple who neither the couple, the now husband and wife, neither of them drank. Mm-hmm. But the family was so compelled because of these Punjabi societal norms that they had alcohol at their wedding.
Oh, yeah.
They had alcohol at their wedding because there's this sense in Punjabi culture. Someone was explaining it to me as this, is that there's this culture of hospitality in Punjab. Yeah. And previously, this culture of hospitality would be, guests would come over and it would be like, how much ghyo did they put in the food?
Yeah.
How much khand did they put in the food? How much paneer did they feed you? How many rotiyan did you eat? Yeah. Right? But then with colonization and this huge emphasis on alcohol and the emphasis placed on alcohol and the other factors that impacted, like there's a variety of factors of the South Asian context, probably colonialism, probably a lot of factors that then made the shift of making alcohol something of such high priority. Mm-hmm. Then now it's a thing of, there's a social norm where people think that you're not giving alcohol as if like you're being cheap or something. Right?
And I mean, I can speak from personal experience. Like my dad never touched a sip in his life. He never drank. And like up until I think maybe he turned like 60, where like his friends came over from England and all of a sudden he had bought bottles. He wouldn't go into the liquor store himself. He
sent someone right?
He bought bottles to serve, these guests, his friends from England who were drinking, you know what I mean? Like, it was like that big shift,
I know another individual, exact same thing. No one drinks in the family, but they have bottles in the basement because when guests come over, because it's probably a little bit of local kikernke. We didn't have.
It's kind of like, how do you invite these people in? Why would they want to hang out with us if they're not, being served like that?
The greater issue there is that person was unable to realize that you can have fun by being sober. Right? I think this is the issue. Like we recently have friends getting married soon, and we did his bachelor, right? And
tearing up the dance floor.
We're tearing it up. I'll tell you how we teared it up, right? We did a coffee tasting.
Yeah.
And so we went to this.
Slow down,
right? And this is literally how the day. I'm actually I'm gonna post a video of what we did that day. So we did like this really cool coffee tasting. It was like all vegetarian food and like sweets and like we ate a lot of yummy stuff. It was like a bunch of different coffees in a bunch of different areas. We went to a really yummy Thai restaurant.
Yeah.
Because we're all like hyped up on coffee and eating good food, we then we started talking and amongst friends and someone challenged someone else, and all of a sudden we're doing races in middle of Toronto. Like some guys like, how you challenge me? He's like, I can run fast. And you're like, no, you can't. And they're like, let's do it right now. So like, we're actually exercising. Yeah. I won the race. And we're like, we're sprinting down the streets of Toronto. And then we turned to 3 races, I think. Yeah. And then we picked up some like, some different like juices and kombucha and whatever. We head back to our place and we have a sauna in our backyard and a cold plunge. And we ended off the day with like hydrating and sauning and cold plunging. It was a super fun day. Yeah. And it was like really enjoyable.
Felt better at the end of the day.
We felt amazing at the end of the day. Right? And no one was hungover. Yeah. Everyone was, partaking in like exercise, eating wholesome food. And, maybe a bit that we indulge in too many sweets probably. Yeah. But you don't feel terrible from that. And then we detox with some sauna and cold plunging. And you compare that to an experience of like
bottle service,
a bunch of guys in a garage who are getting goat meat and alcohol. Like
that's pretty depressing. I mean, it has its moments, like, sitting down with the guys and, just yucking it up and laughing. Like, that's great.
We did that too. But we're out, we're running. Yeah. There's a lot of cool experiences.
I mean, like, okay, so like if you're at a bachelor party, like people wouldn't be in a garage and eating goat meat at a bachelor party. Yeah. They'd be at, in Vegas and, trying to, get some girls, as long as they're not married, of course. And, they'd be doing that sort of thing. So it's a completely like different experience, what you just described there. But yeah, I mean,
and that's like, I'll tell you my bachelor. Yeah. My bachelor was, we did 3 days in a cabin. No. And it was like all like vegetarian food. No. We were in the Kawartha Lakes. Yeah. And like
Kawartha Lakes is where
it's Ontario. It's like a really well-known area. Beautiful lakes. And then at one point, like we went out, like we had 3 canoes. Yeah. And we're all canoeing out in the lakes. And then at one point we wanted to swim from like one like lake island. I'm decent. I'm just very confident.
Okay, gotcha. So
I swam from we swam from one lake island. It must have swam like a kilometer. It was really long. Oh, wow. And we were just like, and then we look back at these memories and like we all felt fantastic. We felt great. And it was like we got to talk and hang out and connect, but it was like, it was beautiful. Like I remember the evenings, we did herreras together and like, it was like really cool. It was a good experience, right?
I envy that. I really do.
But the point is that we're having fun. Yeah. Right? Like we're having.
It's a different type of fun and like,
So to your earlier point is, how do we combat this culture of alcoholism is to recognize there's a culture of alcoholism in our community. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is that the fact that people who don't drink feel compelled to give other people alcohol is them enabling a culture of alcoholism. Second thing is having some pride, right? And some dignity to say that you're not less for not drinking. Yeah. You are more for not drinking. Yeah. And the science backs that up. You will feel better. You will feel healthier. And you're actually not damaging yourself. And thirdly, it's creating a space to show people that you can have fun and you can enjoy and you can celebrate without getting drunk.
I think that shift is starting to happen, though. There are people who are younger and younger, well, not like younger in that sense, but like my age or maybe even late 20s who are like, you know what, now it's time to, put it away. It's time to put it away. This has like been a conversation that I've been kind of itching with, for the last few years as well. Like I know that door is closing eventually. And maybe my catalyst will be getting married, having a kid. And then it'll be like, all right, I can't deal with this.
I have a friend
who, if I'm still indulging in alcohol, right?
Yeah. I have a friend who has kids and stopped drinking recently. Yeah. And the motivating factor he was describing to me was being hungover in his bed and his kids coming.
Screaming at him?
his kids coming to say, I want to play. And his head hurt. And he was ashamed at the smell of alcohol in his mouth. And he couldn't play with his kid because he was hungover. Yeah. And he felt, I remember him describing it to me, and he hasn't drank in like 10 months now. Wow. Because he was just like, I don't want to, that is not an experience. The problem that we're also having in the community, we have to recognize this is, and you actually have it in BC. I haven't met them yet, but there's a group called Vapasi. There's another group in Abbotsford. They're using Sikh practices to help combat addiction, which is beautiful because like I as someone who just like seen a lot of things like for the Indigenous communities, they often use like sweat lodges and their own traditional experiences and own traditions to create a space to fight addiction. And as Sikhs, I think it's so profound that our tradition has everything we need in it.
Yeah.
And including the battling of addiction. Sikh inspired battling of addiction is very different. Like my dad often says this now, like in some schools of thought around addiction are like, you always say you're an addict, right? And that you're X amount of years recovered. My dad goes, I'm not an addict. I was something.
Yeah.
I have transformed. I'm now something else. And he says it all the time. And you know, he's critical of this idea that you are less for having given up the drink.
Yeah.
Because often in certain circles of recovery, it's a lot like, oh, how do you manage without alcohol?
Yeah.
It's like almost like, oh, you're sick and you're and of course
you're lacking something.
You're lacking, right? And of course there's a mental health aspect to it, etc. But I find it really empowering when my dad says, I was sick and now I'm not.
Yeah.
And I think that's to me, that's a very Sikh inspired way of looking at the world, to say that I have transformed and I'm now something different.
Yeah.
And that's, I think we as a community now have a really deep opportunity to start thinking deeper of how we can not just negotiate how we deal with addiction as a community collectively, but also for people, how we create resources that are Sikh inspired in the fight against addiction.
Absolutely. I think we've been going on for an hour and an hour and 41 minutes.
This is great, brother. I'll say there's just like I want to share just a few things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Just because I think we're gonna end it off soon.
Yeah, absolutely.
How do you like this conversation?
Oh, awesome.
This has been really good. And
it's just I have to go out to Kelowna pretty soon.
Yeah. So there's a few things. There's few just new ideas. I just want to share a little bit.
Absolutely.
And I have this opportunity. I want to share with you because I think it'll just give some other context. So bear with me just for like.
No, of course. Okay? Let's keep going.
So these are just some ideas I want you to reflect on. So we've had this really good conversation today.
Yeah.
And we've talked about the spiritual discourse. It's been an hour and 40 minutes. It's felt like 10 minutes for me.
Yeah.
So I've genuinely enjoyed this. And I'd like you to, I see yourself kind of having this personal contemplation in this, in our conversation. And I'm going to share with you some tidbits, some knowledge that I recently been contemplating that have been very profound for me. So I talked to you about akat, this idea of, we revere uncertainty. We revere the unknown, which is, I think, a very profound way of how we look at the world. There's another concept as well. Throughout Gurbani, when you read it, you see this term come up again and again. Rahau.
Okay.
Rahau is when you read Gurbani, when you see the term Rahau, it means to pause and to reflect. And it's meant to reflect on that line of Gurbani that you read, which is often the center point of that Shabad.
Yeah.
How we do one thing is how we do everything in Gurbani.
Okay.
Our engagement with Sikhi is not just confined for that time you're reading Gurbani. These are lessons that you apply to your life. So I often think, how do we apply Rahau in our lives? And it's to ask you, when is the last time that you paused to reflect and think about your life? I'm not talking about pausing from work to look at your phone or pausing from looking at your phone to watch television. I'm talking about that moment where you pause and you reflect to take stock of your life in that moment. Your spiritual journey, your progression, your weaknesses, where you need to improve. The Sikh way asks us to pause, and I think that's a pause that we should do as we're living as well.
100%.
To take that moment in the rush of everything, right? Like you're running from one moment to the next. Pausing is such a profound action that we must take in the spiritual journey. And when we pause, we can start reflecting on ourselves. So one of the ways we describe the divine is Antarjami. Antarjami is that which knows everything internally within us. So how do we apply that concept to ourselves? How do we internalize this idea? Well, it's for us to recognize that this spiritual path is one in which we ourselves need to be looking internally and exploring ourselves, exploring our traumas, our biases, where we need to grow, where we need to improve ourselves. We ourselves must become knowers of ourself. And in that process, we become more spiritual human beings.
You know, I kind of often struggle with this idea of traumas. You know, like I'm kind of like my worldview is, bad shit's happened to me. Other people have had it worse. I refuse to be a slave to my traumas. You know what I mean? Maybe I've had some friends pass away at young ages. Maybe, there's been other certain like bad things that have kind of happened to me. But like at the end of the day, who gives a shit? You know what I mean? Because the world's got bigger problems, and, you know, like my struggle is probably a lot less than a kid that's in Palestine right now who's, you know, growing up without legs or something like that. And I think oftentimes, like, especially in the West, it's such a privilege to have traumas and to try to work through them in essence, if that kind of makes any sense. Like, it's like, oh, like, you know, like one time, you know, maybe my parents got divorced when I was young. Like, not that my parents did, but, you know, they got divorced, and now I'm going to use that as a crutch as to why I have attachment issues and things like that. At a certain point, I believe that you got to kind of get past that stuff. You know, it's okay to carry that with you when you're younger, but, you know, I do find that there's a little bit too much of that put onto a pedestal where people allow that to kind of shape their entire character. Would you agree with or disagree with that kind of worldview? That they're just chains at the end of the day. You gotta break those shackles, you gotta break those chains, and you gotta, you know, be a good person and live your life righteously despite anything that's negative happened to you.
This is the example I'll give you. Okay. I had lower back pain, really bad lower back pain.
Okay.
Okay. And I knew I had lower back pain, and I just like kept on going from like therapist to therapist to therapist until I found like this really good chiropractor who taught me how to like brace my core. I wasn't bracing my core.
Carrying the NDP on your back.
Yeah, right? And so now my back pain's gone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because you're out of politics.
You're out of politics. Zing zing. Double zinger. And so and it's great. Like I'm deadlifting, I'm lifting things, all these things. I remember like I threw my back picking my kid once. It's terrible.
Oh yeah.
And so for me, I like to use the physical experiences to describe like our emotional things as well. Is that like, to me, it's you recognize that you've gone through some things, but it's not to wallow in that.
Yeah.
But it's to take decisive action to fix that. What is that action? There's a variety of tools people can employ in a variety of ways. But ultimately, the point is to get to where you're saying, where you should resolve them.
Yeah.
Right? So I think the problem is when people, when there's such an emphasis, but not that same steps towards wanting to fix it. But like, you know, I don't complain about my back anymore.
Yeah.
The same way where I've resolved, like I grew up with my dad, who I had a really painful experience with growing up. I love my dad now. I'm resolved with my dad, right? Like when we interact and we engage, we're just like, yeah, dad, you used to be one kind of guy. You're not that kind of guy.
Yeah.
So I think the issue people have is that you need to identify where you need to improve yourself, and you need to take that steps to do so. But to do that, you need to acknowledge that you've experienced some things that were difficult beforehand. So I think when you look at it from that perspective, then it's more empowering and less disempowering.
And yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of one of the things that, like, I don't dwell on anything bad that happens to me too long. You know, I just don't. Like, I mean, even when I broke up with my girlfriend or my ex-girlfriend back in like November-ish, like people for months were like, hey, are you okay? I'm like, what do you mean? Like, it was a relationship. It didn't work out. Like, it's fine. Like, what's the point of allowing that to be, part of me? Yeah. Like, like, I don't got time to worry about that long. I was maybe in the dumps for like a week, and I was like, all right, shake it off. Move on. Sometimes I feel that those sort of things enough. And I kind of like, I try to stay positive or optimistic almost to a fault at certain times. And something like maybe I do need to learn, like, I don't know where that kind of comes from, or maybe like I just don't want to deal with the negative things. So I'm just kind of like, well, whatever, like bad shit happens, move on, kind of carry on, and focus my energy towards something that's going to help me build rather than, having to reflect on whatever happened to me.
This is an interesting thing where it's how do we understand our weaknesses as potential strengths?
Yeah.
So I'll give you a sick example, something I've been contemplating recently as well. So we talked about the 5 thieves of spirituality: Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moh, Ahankar, lust, anger, greed, attachment, and egotistical pride. There's a beautiful line of Gurbani that describes them as the 5 wrestlers, the Panj Mall.
Okay.
And in this Gurbani, in this Shabad, it describes how someone conquers or defeats these 5 wrestlers. And they're like congratulated with taps, with like pats on the back for this accomplishment.
Yeah.
And when I thought about it, it's really interesting because these 5 thieves of spirituality are negative aspects. But in wrestling, you don't kill your opponent.
You subdue them.
You subdue them.
Yeah.
You control them. So now the Sikh way asks us to look at these 5 negative aspects to say that when you control them, there's something positive that can come from them.
Mm-hmm.
So the 5 thieves of spirituality are often described as these 5 wrestlers, and you defeat them in wrestling, you defeat your opponent by controlling them. So what happens when you control them? Well, when you control lust, it becomes passion. Mm-hmm. And you need passion in your relationships, in life, to have that richness, to have that energy to push forward. When you control anger, it becomes determination. And you need determination to overcome obstacles, to stand up against injustice, to fight back against those who want to tear us down. Greed, when you control it, becomes aspiration. And you need to have aspirations to provide for yourself, your family, your community.
And the oneness, right?
The oneness, exactly, to provide everyone else.
Yeah.
When you control attachment, it becomes affection. Mm-hmm. And you need to have affection for your children. You need to have care for those around you. You need to have care for humanity.
Yeah.
And when you control egotistical pride, it becomes dignity.
Yeah.
You need to hold your head high. You need to be able to have that sense of dignity to make sure that no one's treading on you or trying to push you down.
Yeah.
That you're having a sense of self-respect.
Mm-hmm.
So these are the ways in which even these 5 negative aspects, when controlled, can have a positive aspect on our life.
Yeah.
In the same way that you were describing how you had these negative experiences, but you try to find that positivity from it. So there's something there as well.
Yeah. Fair enough. Got anything else?
There's a lot more, but this is a good flow. I just want to share that new idea. That other stuff I've done in recent podcasts.
Fair
I
enough.
really enjoy this.
Yeah.
This is a really cool conversation.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, I mean, I hate to kind of cancel it abruptly, but I did have to get on the road.
No, listen, we've been talking a lot. I want to add my final points.
Absolutely.
And this was like I've said to you, I've done a lot of these podcasts, but this has been probably one of the best.
No.
Just because you yourself, you're a bit self-deprecating, but I'll say in our conversation, you are someone who has contemplated these ideas. Oh. You have clearly a base knowledge of not just Sikhi, but of other religious traditions as well. And I think you're on a positive path.
Yeah.
Like the fact that you're already contemplating stopping to drinking and recognizing that you may have an unhealthy relationship there.
I mean, I think you can still live a positive life and understand that a lot of the negative that I have in my life, I kind of do to myself.
Yeah.
Where, I try to live positively as possible. I try to be as nice to people as possible. Obviously, I'm not perfect. There's going to be situations where maybe I'm ignorant to the fact that I might have cut somebody off in traffic and that guy might think the worst things of me. Right? Yeah. And then, there's obviously times that maybe I've knowingly, been negative towards somebody and then thought about and screw up. But I'd say on the whole, I try to be as nice to people as possible, and all the negative I do to myself is kind of just, self-harm in essence, right? I internalize that. And, I'm grateful that we had this conversation. We were able to connect. You're here for a little bit longer, right?
Very, very briefly. So,
briefly?
Yeah, I'm gone Monday or Tuesday.
You're gone Monday or Tuesday? Oh, it would have been nice to have dinner, but another time.
Another time. I come to all the time.
I'll be in Brampton in October.
Perfect. So we'll do another. We'll find a studio. I want to end by saying this, just because you mentioned it earlier, and I want to I'll let this be a closing point from my side. So in the Sikh way, you've described how we want to be nice and want to be caring, and you talked about those who want to feed others who are in difficult positions. I just want to give a final perspective on this. In the Sikh way, our spirituality is reflected in our political perspective on life. Mm-hmm. So what I mean to say to you this is that, let me take one more chug.
No worries.
So I got a little bit of a rasp. What I mean to say is this. So you described a bunch of folks who are giving back, and these are very beautiful, powerful things. We must give back. We must be caring day to day. But in the same way that the Sikh way is asking us to transform ourselves spiritually, to transform ourselves from a sparrow who can then battle a falcon, in our perspective on how to fight injustice is not to be limited against simply filling a cup or filling a plate of food. Mm-hmm. Sikhi is meant to be a revolution.
Okay.
Where we challenge structures of injustice. So not only must we feed those people who are hungry, we must ask, why are they hungry? And ask, what are the systems that are creating this hunger within them? And challenge and tear those down. Even when we think of langar is not just about feeding people. Langar was meant to destroy and disrupt the caste system. The caste system is a system of purity of rules, right? Like high caste can't sit with a low caste.
Yeah.
A high caste can't be fed by a low caste. A low caste can't be served by a high caste. The langar process is revolutionary because it actually started to destroy all these rules and stratifications that created by the caste system and said that, no, we're going to turn it on its head and do things that were considered impure. It's impure considered to sit down with the low caste. And in the Sikh way, we rejected it and said, we're going to actually celebrate this and make this integral to our spiritual process. This is why at the end of Sikh gatherings, we say, Langar shak ke jao.
Yeah.
Not just to feed people, but to say you must take part in a revolution to disrupt this caste system.
Yeah.
So I just want to end by saying that be it the revolution of our langar system or be it Banda Singh Bahadur, who came to Punjab and uprooted this system of landowners and gave the land back to the workers and created a revolution in terms of that equality that came forward in the Sikh way, or be it the Sikhs recently challenging the unjust the Sikhs who are engaged in the farmer protest, opposing the unjust legislation against farmers. The Sikh way is to not just feed plates. The Sikh way is not just to be nice. You should be nice. I'm not taking away from that. But it's also to say that if we truly understand we're all one and we're compelled to uplift and help others, and that process of being compelled makes us improve ourselves because we understand we need to be better to help others better, we then also need to take a step further and say, we need to look at society with that same critical lens and say, what are we doing to create justice and equality? What are we doing to create Himili Raj, which is referred to in Gurbani, or Begum Paraya, a city without sadness? How are we creating a society in which there's true equality and true justice for all?
Well, one thing, it's interesting that you mentioned that, where I can see that a lot of people kind of internalize that idea and they do go after injustices. I find that currently our community goes after the low-hanging fruit a little bit too much. You know what I mean? Where injustices, I don't know if you know the case of Amritpal Meron, where essentially it's a controversial case, but basically they saw this woman online on Instagram in Punjab. She was doing, Beadbi. She was calling herself Kamal Kaur. These guys didn't really like that. And they ended up, killing her, per se. Which is a terrible thing.
Terrible thing.
They should have probably, gone about it a different way. Yeah. But in their mind, they were saying that, well, she's committing Beadbi, which is, sin against Gurbani or Sikhi or whatever it was. They went after the low-hanging fruit, whereas, like, if you actually want to go after the injustice, I'm not calling for killing anyone or anything, but, there's politicians who've, been architects of, murdering our calm for how long? But yet we go after these small little things. You know what I mean?
Defenseless.
Defenseless. Like, some of these people are rattling the cage, to a degree. And it's about silencing the fruit that's already on the ground. Like the most things. To a degree, council things when they come after myself or anyone else that they've kind of come after, right? Like, why don't we kind of focus on the bigger issues? The ones that, we had the assassination of Shaheed Najjar. We have those sort of people who have who've been the architects of that assassination. They're still walking around, but yet we go after these like little things. Oh, that guy, that one Gurdwara has tables there. Oh, those guys aren't, following the right thing. Like, these are kind of like the low end issues. Like, I think you need to kind of start at the top instead of doing this like bottom up approach. You got to go top down.
Yeah, I would say there's a few things that are said. That's like, of course, we could, like, I don't know the full details of what you described, but any sort of violence.
That's essentially what it is.
We must condemn any sort of that violence. It sounds terrible and we must condemn that.
Yeah.
But I would say with regards to the issues that we're facing right now, I would say this, is that there's a variety of things you described.
Yeah.
And I would say the overarching idea is this. We should be looking at those systems of injustice that are impacting our panth and all panths and challenging them. And then internally, we need to be doing, I think, a better job of challenging and addressing our differences in a way which is also building our community up together.
Yeah.
So just something I've been reflecting on. So when we talk about the Mool Mantra, the Mool Mantra or the Mangalacharan, which is the invocation, the opening of the Gurratan Sahib, the beginning that we read, when we're describing aspects of the divine, we're also describing aspects that we ourselves want to internalize because that divinity is within us.
Yeah.
And one of them is Karta Purk, which is to recognize that the divine is a creative being. We ourselves must be creative beings.
Yeah.
We must be creative in how we address conflict.
Yeah.
We must be creative in how we tackle these internal issues within our community. We must be creative in how we build justice. We must use creativity as a tool instead of, I think, maybe this direct opposition all the time. And we need to look at how we can use that creative energy to address these injustices that we're facing.
Absolutely. Any final thoughts?
Final thoughts. This is a great conversation, man. I dropped a few tidbits. You want to take it a bit further. So I appreciate that. And it was a good conversation, man. I hope we do it again.
All right. Perfect, man. Thank you guys for joining us.